Welcome to the Arun Church podcast, where our mission is bringing life to everyone, everywhere, every day. Each podcast episode features the latest talk from our church, which are released weekly. We're passionate about Jesus, love to worship together, and are committed to changing our community for the better. Connect with us at arunchurch.com.
Right, great. Well, Flo has introduced today's topic for me brilliantly well. Today we are going to be looking at Luke chapter 5, verses 1 to 11, and we're looking at the story that Flo told where Peter put out the nets and they caught a miraculous load of fish, and where Jesus calls Peter into his new purpose and destiny. And it's a really, really exciting story. This is the first talk that we're giving this week on our new mini-series, which is Boats, Nets and Calling. So for the next little while, that's what we're going to be looking at, and still continuing on our Life by the Sea series. So are you ready to dive into the Word of God together? Are we ready, church? Brilliant, because this story, when it starts in a minute, starts with people who are hungry and pressing in and can't get enough of what Jesus has got to say. So let's start from that point this morning as we're listening. Let's start like that crowd of people who were desperate to hear what Jesus had to say to them. Do you know what? This morning, Jesus wants to speak to you. Are you desperate? Are you hungry? Are you, right from this moment, pressing into the story? Or are you thinking, heard the story, I probably could guess the message, I kind of know what's going to happen? Or are you hungry and are you pressing in? So let's start there. But right at the beginning, we have got a question for you. If you could go back in time in your own life, okay, this is just to get us thinking. If you could go back in time in your own life to one moment or a day perhaps, what would it be? If right now I said to you, like, click my fingers and you can go back to that day and just kind of live out that moment or live out that day again. I wonder what that would be. Just have a quiet think to yourself what that might be. If you could go back in time. I'm not talking going back to the 1800s, not talking about that. Just in your own life, in your own experience, what one day might that be? Maybe it's a particularly lovely holiday that you're thinking about, a lovely beach, palm trees, reading a book. Maybe it's a wedding day or something like that. Maybe it's just a day where you felt that there was nothing on your shoulders and you actually remember. Can you remember what it felt like to feel peaceful? Maybe it's a peaceful day that you're hankering after and remembering. Oh, it's quite fun, isn't it, thinking what you might do? Well, today's story, we are going back to a really significant moment in the life of Peter. A moment that I'm sure that he would remember for the rest of his life. And when he stopped and thought back to that moment and that day, he was really pleased with the decision that he made on that day. And we are invited this morning to join in that story with Peter and to see where we would put ourselves in that story. So we've got the first slide, we've got a couple of maps there. I'm not going to spend long on this at all. Just people who like maps. Hands up, I like maps. Who likes maps? Yeah, there we go. It's for you. This is for you. This is the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Lake of Gennesaret that we're going to be looking at there. And today's passage was taught the North Shore. So in this one here, it's on its tiny writing. You might be able to see it says Cove of the Sower. Up there, kind of there in the middle. They thought that it might have been there. The reason why they think it might have been there is because the natural landscape meant that the projection of the voice was really good in that area. And in that area, if you were down on the shore, you could hear for a long way up the hill, you could hear what the person on the shoreline was saying. So that's why people think, and also based on the different places mentioned, they kind of put it around this area in the Sea of Galilee. And I've got a photo for you on the next page, so you can kind of get an idea of the landscape and what that might have looked like. So this picture is taken from the Mount of the Beatitudes, just overlooking that bay. So somewhere on that bay, somewhere on that coastline is where that took place. Sometimes it's helpful, isn't it, to think this is a real place with real people. And this really happened. This isn't a made-up place, like Narnia at the beginning when there's the maps and you can, or I don't know, Lord of the Rings, Mordor. You're not looking at the map and imagining. This is a real place where real people stood and stand today, where real boats went out fishing and where real fish are caught. That's where we start this morning. And we're starting with Peter, Simon, as he's known in this passage, Simon. Now, before we begin to read the passage, it's important to note in this point that I think often when I'd read this passage before, I hadn't really kind of thought about the fact that in this, Simon has already met Peter. Simon has already met Peter. Simon is Peter. Of course he's met Peter. It's himself. Simon has already met Jesus. This isn't the first encounter that Peter has with Jesus. I'm going to call him Peter for the sake of this, okay? This isn't the first time Peter's met Jesus. In fact, Peter's met Jesus a few times before. So first of all, his brother Andrew basically said to Peter, Peter, I found the Messiah. Come and let's find him. So Peter followed his brother Andrew to meet this person, to meet this Jesus character. Then Peter's also seen some healings happen. They've seen some demons being cast, Jesus casting out demons. They've seen Jesus speaking and preaching before this moment comes. So already Peter has met Jesus. On some form or another, he is aware of Jesus and knows him. But up to this point, he doesn't really, truly know him for himself personally. So this is the moment where Jesus encounters Peter personally for the very first time. I wonder if in this moment you can remember where you encountered Jesus personally for the very first time. Perhaps you still haven't. Perhaps that moment isn't something that's happened for you quite yet, but you're here in the crowd, just like the crowd on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Maybe you're part of that crowd. Maybe this is the first time you're hearing about Jesus, or that you're kind of beginning to listen. I wonder what he's got to say to me. So that's where we're starting. One day, okay, this is Luke 5, verses 1 to 11. You can read along up here, or if you've got your Bibles with you, turn to it. One day, as Jesus was standing at the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. The people were pressing in on Jesus. Like I've already said, isn't that exciting? I just love that. Even at the beginning, the people were pressing in, crowding around Jesus, desperate to hear the truth, to hear the life, to hear the light that comes from the mouth of Jesus, to get a little taste of what this man is saying that changes everything. They're pushing in and they're pressing in. Peter is just at the end of a busy night's fishing, but then a fruitless night fishing. He's been there all night long. Can you imagine, okay, you might be a fisherman. This is what you do every single day, every single night. But think about the longest work shift that you've had, the longest time you've been at work, and then you finally finish and you're exhausted, but you're a bit disappointed. Peter hadn't caught any fish that night, none. So at this point where Jesus meets Peter, he's tired, he's exhausted, and it's just been one of those days when you're just like, I wish I hadn't even bothered. Have you ever had a day at work like that, or just a day like that, when you're like, I wish I haven't even got out of bed? We've all had them, haven't we? So that's what's happening in this story. Peter and his friends are like, well, that was a bit of a waste of time going out fishing. But Jesus steps in to Peter's boat. Jesus sees Peter at the side, at the edge, not at the front. Peter wasn't clambering in to see Jesus. Peter was quiet at the edge, getting on with the everyday, boring jobs. That's what was happening. Okay, verse 4. When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they'd done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners, "Hey, you guys, come over here." Signal to that bit's made up. They didn't say that. Well, maybe they did, but they signaled. What kind of signals might, I don't know, something. Signaling to their partners, come over here, look what's happening. Come over to where Jesus is. Look what's happening. Come to where Jesus is. Look what he's done. He signaled to their partners to come and see. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Come close, God, because you love me." Oh no, hang on, did I misread that? That's not what it says. Oh, sorry. Oh no, what did Peter say? "Go away from me, Lord." Well, that's not very friendly, is it? "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." Go away. Because when you're close, Jesus, I see me. Peter sees himself. Maybe for the first time. Maybe for the first time he allows himself to be seen because he sees Jesus and suddenly is aware of who he's in the presence of. Peter at this point, remember this is the first personal, close encounter Peter has with Jesus. And his response is immediately to fall to his knees and praise him. He's saying go away, but I don't think he's going, get away, God, go away. He's not saying that. He's saying, oh, I'm in your presence, Jesus. I'm aware of my sinfulness. In your presence, I'm aware of the mess I'm in. I'm aware of the mistakes I made. I'm aware of just not, I know that I am not right, but when I look at you, whoa. Has anyone ever felt that before when they come to Jesus and you just go, whoa? What does Jesus say? Jesus doesn't turn around and say, yes, you're right. Yeah, yes, you are a sinful man. You go away from me, you sinful man. Jesus' response is as Jesus always is to us. In our mess, in our sinfulness, in our everyday, Jesus says, don't be afraid. Follow me. I'm going to carry on reading from verse 9. For he, this is Peter, for he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken, and so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people. So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. They pulled their boats up onto shore and left everything to follow him. Everything. What does everything mean? Everything. What have they just caught? The biggest, the biggest, most exciting business thing that had ever happened to them. This would have been the biggest catch that they have ever had, that they could ever dream of, that they probably have ever dreamed of. They are astonished by this catch. This isn't just a good night's fishing. This just isn't just a, well, that was a good, successful day. Well done, me. This astonished them to the point that Peter fell to his knees before Jesus. This catch was not just a good day at work. This catch was Jesus in action. Jesus in action in Peter's everyday. Because all Peter had to do was say, yes, Jesus, you can use my boat. Okay, I'll put a little out to shore. Yeah, I don't think it's really that great an idea, Jesus, if I go into the deep and put the nets out again. You do realise we caught nothing all night, but if you say so. Peter is obedient, even with his questioning. He's obedient to Jesus. And he says, and Jesus says, go into the deep. Peter knows that usually there's not many fish in the deep. Usually the shallows is where you go. But Peter is obedient to Jesus, even though he knows and he's thinking, hang on, Jesus, you're the carpenter, right? I'm not giving you advice on how to make the perfect, I don't know anything about carpentry. To make something smooth and look lovely, there we go, that's what you get with me. Peter's not giving Jesus advice. So Peter, in the immediate, Peter is kind of going, well, really? Jesus, I mean, I know best. I know best because I am the fisherman. But he recognizes already, this is before the catch, he's seen Jesus do some amazing things, and he recognizes that Jesus carries authority. He recognizes that by following what Jesus says, that's probably going to be a good thing to do, even if it doesn't make sense. Maybe that's what you need to hear this morning. Following Jesus and doing what he asked of you is probably a good thing to do, even if it doesn't make sense. If you know that Jesus has said something to you and you're at the side going, doesn't really make sense, Jesus. I'm the one who's been doing this for this long. I know what I'm doing. Jesus says, follow me. It's probably a good idea. It's probably a good idea and a good plan. So we've got just a quick reminder from verse 3. Jesus got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put a little out from shore. There we go, there's our first step. Maybe today that's you. Just invite Jesus into the boat. What does that mean? Just invite Jesus into your today, into what's in front of you right now. In this moment, in this room, just say, okay, Jesus, jump in. Jump in. And Jesus, first of all, just asked a little thing of Peter. Right, let's just go out a little. And Peter can do that. Peter can do that. Maybe Jesus is just saying, can I jump in? Can I step into your today and walk with you today? Can I do that? Maybe today you just need to let him do that and see that you can trust him in that. Then he says in verse 4, put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch. Let down our nets for the catch. So, you've got your nets, okay? When a fisherman had been fishing for the night, the next thing that he was meant to do, this is what you're meant to do. You're meant to get the nets, you're meant to mend the nets, you're meant to clean the nets. Why? So that they would be strong the next night, so that the nets are ready. When Jesus interrupts Peter, the nets aren't finished yet. The nets are still being washed, the nets are still being mended. Jesus steps in and says, get the nets, let's go now. Peter in that moment had a choice to say to Jesus, Jesus, I'm exhausted. I'd rather you didn't use my nets. Can you use their boat, please? I'm tired. Can I just finish mending my nets? Maybe he doesn't want his nets used because he doesn't want his nets to get broken and he wants to look after them because he's, studious and looking after his nets very, very carefully. Often can we be like that in our lives? Oh, do you know what? So I'd like to be used by you, Jesus, but I'm not quite finished mending my net. Maybe you're like, well, I'll be used by you, Jesus, when I'm a bit more sorted. I'm not quite sorted enough. I mean, I know you a bit, God. I know my Bible a little bit, but I'm not really, I'll go to Becca. She would know. Becca can do that because use Becca's nets. Jesus, use Becca's nets. She's the church leader, so surely her nets are going to be in good condition. Look, use Becca's nets. I'm fixing my net. How often do we do that? How often do we do that with Jesus? Oh, me? Not me. If Jesus wants to use you, it doesn't matter if you're a bit broken. We're all a bit broken. Sorry. Even Becca, if she was to come up, I know she would say this. We're all a bit broken and need a bit of mending. And if we've been out fishing all night, which hopefully we have, if we've been working for God, then we're going to be a bit tired. Then we're going to be a little bit in need of mending. But if Jesus says go, then go, because just round the corner is that miraculous, incredible catch. Peter did nothing to make the fish come. The next one. You got the next slide up there? Thank you. Peter did nothing to make the fish come. Only God could do that. This is an important bit. Peter did nothing to make the fish come. Peter simply did what he knew and let down the net. The fish didn't come because Peter was there. The fish came because Jesus was there. Jesus, who called the fish into their very being right at the beginning, who separated the earth and the water. Jesus was there. There weren't always fish in the deep, in the middle of the day. Jesus, God, the Holy Spirit, led the fish and told Peter, right, Peter, go. Go to that place. That's where the fish are. That's where I've put the fish. That's where I've sent them. I've sent them for this moment, for you to put out your nets and catch the fish. If Peter hadn't thrown his net out at that moment, the fish would not have been caught. Church, what's in our hands today? What is your net for catching fish? At the end of this story, as we know already, Jesus says to Peter and to James and John, you will become fishers of men. Fishers of men. So they leave behind what has been, but God calls them using who they were, using who they are, and calls them to the next step with what is in their hands. What is in your hands this morning? It means one or two of you might be fishermen by trade. I don't think, as far as I'm aware, none of you are fishermen by trade. I wonder what you do in your day-to-day. Now, this isn't just about job. This is your day-to-day. Are you retired? Are you working in an office? Are you a cleaner? Are you a doctor? Whatever your job is, whatever your vocation is, that's your net in a way. That's your boat. That's where you are. That's what's in your hands. Are you a mum at home and all day long you're changing nappies and dealing with arguments and sorting everything out? Or are you, it doesn't matter if you're you guys at college or university or studying or at school. What's in your hands that you can use to catch fish? By catching fish, we know what we're talking about, yes? We're talking about drawing people to God, showing people who he is. And we're talking about catching fish. We're talking about bringing them into the kingdom of heaven. into relationship with Jesus. Now, sometimes this analogy of the fishing thing for me, you'd be like, well, I don't really want to be like a fisherman in my friends and my friends. And, if I go into, and have a coffee with a good friend of mine who doesn't know Jesus, that sounds quite manipulative. If I'm sitting there thinking, how can I reel this one in to catch this fish? Because I'm going to catch a fish. Can I borrow you, Flo, for this? You knew it was coming. This is this moment. She's now not the fisherman. She's now going to be a fish, everyone. There we go. There we are, Flo. You put that one on. Just like this on your, the shoulder. Yeah, there we go. Right, okay, Flo loves Jesus and knows Jesus, right? But let's pretend that Flo is a good friend of mine who doesn't know Jesus yet, okay? And we've met for a coffee. So I'm going to see Flo, and I'm not thinking, am I going to tell Flo about Jesus? How can I talk about him? What can I do to show her that he loves her? And that's not even on my radar. Then I'm just kind of swimming along as well, aren't I? Like this. I mean, if I just blend in, nobody will know I'm a Christian. Nobody will know. Here I go, swim. Hi, Flo. Hey, how's your day been? Great. Well, they annoyed you, didn't they? Oh, my goodness, I can't believe they're so annoying. So annoying. She's so annoying. I know, I'm unbelievable. Yeah. Oh, right. See you later. Bye. Bye, Flo. Right, she's a fish, I'm a fish, nothing really's happened. Right, take that off. Like if I wish I had your fishing rod. Anyway, we got the fishing rod, there we go, the net. Okay, I go with this in my head. Flo doesn't yet know Jesus. I know Jesus, and gosh, knowing Jesus has changed my life, and everything in me wants Flo to know Jesus, not because then I've caught a fish, well done me, but because Flo at the moment is swimming without Jesus. Where is she swimming to? Where is her life going? But with Jesus, if I catch Flo, she's swimming into a life that is free, a life that is full of love, full of joy. And in our conversation, instead I go, hey Flo, how are you doing? And she tells me about this annoying friend, and I say, I wonder what's going on with that friend. I wonder, just sometimes, and then I talk to Flo about a friend of mine who I found difficult. And because Flo and I are good friends, she knows I go to church, she knows I love Jesus. So I can say, do you know what, can I tell you about the story and I'm telling Flo about something that affected me or someone else, a story that's real and that's personal. I'm not going, you are a mess, you need Jesus. I'm saying to Flo, there's a different way of looking at that. Do you know what? And I know I can forgive that person because I've known that because Jesus helped me. Can I tell you about Jesus? Come to Alpha. There we go. See what I did there? Come to Alpha. No, thank you, Flo. That's brilliant. Little example. Put that there. Do you see how that changes things? Do you see that? It changes your perspective when you look at the people around you, not as fish to be caught because of a competition, but someone to save, to bring into the life-giving life that is with Jesus, with the Father, our true identity as children of God. We're running out of time, so I will skip past lots of it. But this is a really important bit. In the band, do you want to come up? And I'll be drawing it to a close if you guys want to come up now. Okay, there were 2 boats, weren't there? There were 2 boats. 2 boats. Peter's obedience didn't just affect Peter. Didn't just affect him. It affected those around him. It affected the business partners. It affected them. And Peter couldn't draw in that hole alone. Peter needed the others. He needed the other people. Church, we need each other. We're singing about revival. We're lifting our hands and saying, God, bring revival. What does revival mean? Revival means life. It literally means breathing life into something, bringing it back to life. If this community is going to be brought back to life, and we're going to see Jesus moving in this place and seeing lives change, it doesn't take just me running Alpha and then just inviting the few people I know. It invites each of us. I'm not just talking about Alpha, but it invites each of us playing our part as fishers of men. It involves each of us going, it doesn't matter if my nets have been finished being mended. It doesn't matter if my boat isn't as good as their boat. It doesn't matter. It just matters that Jesus calls you and says, can I get into your boat? Can we go fishing? Because what that means is seeing people's lives turned around from death to life, from captivity to freedom, from sorrow to joy, from chaos to peace. Now, of course, when we walk with Jesus, everything isn't easy. It's not. Peter, the rest of his life, had times that were up here on the mountaintop and incredible, and down there in the valley that were so hard and painful. Peter died as a martyr. He died for his faith. But do you think his answer would have been any different? Do you think he ever regretted saying, I'm going to leave that behind and I'm going to follow you? Do you think you could say yes to that adventure this morning? Otherwise, Peter might just still have, not now, 2,000 years later, but he would have just been carrying on by the shore of the Sea of Galilee, mending his nets and fishing. Some nights good, some nights not so. It would have been all right, but boy, would he have missed out on the adventure of a lifetime. And would we have missed out because Peter's yes changed the course of church history? What if your yes changes the course of church history or brings one fish swimming in? I had a dear friend, I might have told you this before. Many of you know this story. A dear friend, I'm going to call her Anne for the sake of this, who I went to school with. And we lived together at university. And she had a really hard childhood, really hard. A huge amount of childhood trauma. And just big things. She became an alcoholic after she got married, and different things in her life didn't go to plan, and she finally had to face up to lots of the stuff that had gone on for her. She became an alcoholic and she was very ill. And she lost lots of our friends because she pushed them away because of her illness. She lost her marriage. She even lost her children. And she lost her life. A year ago, she died because pneumonia took her, because of the alcoholism had riddled her body, and she died. But you know what? I put my net out. I put out my net for her. When I was at school with her, I put my net out. When I was at university with her, I put my net out. When we lost touch for quite a few years in between, but when we got back in touch, I put out my net. I prayed for her. I gave her a Bible. I told her about Jesus. I forwarded her a video of Louise Chaplin singing, and just encouraging her. I sent a video and said, listen to this song's for you, because Louise put out her net. Louise put out her net, what was in her hands, which is her voice and her gift of music. She put her net out. So I shared that with her. One day my friend called me and she said, hi Joanne, how you doing? She said, I was chatting with my religious friend the other day. Have I told you about my religious friend? I said, no, I don't think you have. She said, I told her. I told my religious friend, she said, do you want to come to this thing called Alpha? And I went along and it was quite good. And I said, God, you heard my cry. I live here, she lived there. I couldn't go with her to Alpha, but my prayer was the net. Her friend in Scotland's net was asking her to Alpha. Do you know what? I believe that she died knowing Jesus. I believe that in everything that was still going on, her life was not finished in a way that we wanted it to be. She didn't find freedom this side of eternity. She didn't. I could have given up and said, do you know what? She's too ill. She's made her bed. She can lie in it. No, because she mattered more. And I believe God met her. What if you're placed today in somebody's life to put your net out? That involved me and her friend. Two boats. Not just me. This is never meant for us to do on our own, but to partner with Jesus, because he's the one that brings the fish, and to do it together. So maybe let's stand and respond. Maybe you're still in the crowd and you think, I want to know this Jesus. He sounds pretty awesome. Just invite him into your boat this morning. Maybe you've been clinging to your nets, going, it didn't work last night, it didn't work before, there's no point. And Jesus says, try again, over there, try again. What if your yes changes one person's story? What if your yes changes thousands of people, millions of people's stories? It starts with your yes this morning. So Jesus, I pray that you would come into our boats, that you would use us, that you would use what's in our hands, that you would use us in our mess, in our every day, that you would just step into that right now. Right now, Jesus, step into our everyday. Show us what we've got in our hands and show us where to go and catch those fish. And I pray that we see revival, not for Arun Church, but for the church, for your church, God, for this nation, for the nations, that we would see your kingdom come in this place and that you would use us. Come, Lord, come. Do it again, God. Do it again. Amen.